Thursday, August 20th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, a bit about healthcare.
Let's do this.
Warm today.
We don't say that enough, but you know what? It's been stupid warm for the past 2 weeks.
But you know what?
So warm, it's just insane.
It's great. I wish it would just be this way all year round.
If it was this warm in space, he could have been reunited with his girlfriend.
But ahead at work, we're having this ping pong tournament.
In fact, it's so warm, I think that in space, it's probably a cool 50 degrees.
So we're having that ping pong tournament at work, and I was kicking all sorts of ass, and I went up against this guy who's
Chinese guy?
No, just this guy, this normal kind of white American dude.
What's his job at the company?
He's a kind of senior guy.
Okay.
And he's a tennis player. Apparently, he almost went pro. And he plays ping pong for fun.
So you're in trouble.
He trivially dispatched of me. He did not even break a sweat.
I did not realize, obviously they're both racket ball sports, but I didn't think there was that much of a connection between, the table tennis and the actual tennis in terms of the skill set.
I mean, I'm a mediocre tennis player, a pretty good racquetball player, and a pretty great ping pong player.
Racquetball and tennis have a lot more in common than I think tennis and ping pong.
I would actually say that ping pong and racquetball have a little more in common because racquetball is a lot faster than tennis.
That's true. But I would wonder, now I kind of want to see some Chinese ping pong dude go up against some real tennis, and then maybe see Federer and Nadal try to play some ping pong.
Well, no, because the thing is, this guy played tennis and ping pong for most of his life.
Oh, okay. So it's not a situation of skills crossing over. Yeah.
But it was basically, too, that I play a really tricky game because I basically use a lot of English and that sort of thing, and I trick the person. I'll be looking at one side, and I hit it to the other side.
He just hit it really hard right down the middle every time?
Yes, and it was basically It
was so hard you couldn't possibly react quickly
enough. It was
enough?
In a movie when, you're on the ground holding your sword up while the other guy's just battering against your sword over and over again. There's nothing you can do.
Yep.
I lost 21-8.
Yeah, that's, when you always see people bowling, some people they bowl, they try to do the hook shot and such. I just bowl it straight down the middle and I try to be as consistent as possible. If I can get a strike like that one time, then it's technically possible. I could do that exact same thing every time.
I got it up to about my average when I was taking bowling classes at RIT, up to about 200. Mm-hmm. I just went straight up the middle every time, and then you know what? I stopped taking bowling classes. My average is back down to about 43 where it belongs.
Yeah, but I'm terrible at ping pong, but if I, were to actually try to play ping pong, my strategy would be, I was like, why don't you just, I always see people playing it, and I'm like, why don't you just hit it as hard as humanly possible?
Because if you don't have skill, you'll hit it out of bounds every time.
I know. But that's what I would practice. I would basically just practice hitting it as hard as I could swing my arm, because my arm may not be strong enough to, say, hit a home run and baseball.
See, it wasn't the speed
but I can hit
necessarily.
that ping pong ball hard enough to get it past anyone. On the serve, I could do it.
See, I play that fast, too. He just had basically perfect technique, and he was extremely aggressive, and everyone up to that point was kind of passive.
Well, that's the other thing. How big was this room? Because, when you watch professional...
No, it was a full-size room.
Because, when you watch professional ping pong people play...
That's how I play.
They have, a gymnasium. And it's they got all this open area, so they can go way back.
Yes.
So when someone hits it stupid hard, you can be way far away to still get it.
That's how you play.
Yeah. Did you play in a gymnasium that big? Or?
You see, most players, they're not
How high was the ceiling?
The ceiling was high enough.
Uh-huh.
Actually, even though they can hit it so far, they don't tend to hit it that high. The perfect shot barely touches the net.
Yeah, touches the corner. And then
touches the net. Because you're allowed to touch the net, just not on the serve.
Yeah, that's right.
But the thing, basically, it was like playing against Mike Tyson. So I realized, now I'm fighting my way.
Mike Tyson.
Now,
perfect strategy.
I'm fighting my way through the losers bracket, and if I make it back to the top,
I'll probably play the same guy again.
I'll have to fight this guy again. I'll have to beat him twice, and I have a strategy. I've been observing him play. And I scored the points I scored by being defensive and then luring him into a sense of security. And then I would give him
Luke Morgan air hockey strategy.
It worked real well because the points I scored toward the end, he'd hit it hard. I'd hit it back like I made a mistake. So he's got this nice easy lob coming in, but I put a sneaky backspin on it. So he'd go to slam it and it'd go right into the net. So I have to basically hold out and play defensively until he gets tired.
I predict you'll still lose, but perhaps score a slightly better margin.
I'm expecting to get second place in this tournament, but this guy, I don't think
So
I can
everyone
beat him.
else you've been seen in this tournament is not so good?
The losers bracket is no concern of mine.
How about the people who are still in the winners bracket?
I'm not worried.
Okay.
They warned me when I went up against this guy. They're like, if you beat him, that's going to be like the biggest upset ever.
Then he'd be in the losers bracket and come back and get you.
Yeah. And I didn't realize. They were like, yeah, Rim's the dark horse. He's going to do it. Nah, I got nothing.
No, so I think I'm going to get to work from home tomorrow.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I hope the VPN doesn't work. No.
What kind of VPN is it?
It's just Cisco VPN software.
With the RSA key?
No, it's just you open up the Cisco VPN software, you click, you type in your username and password, and no, it's just Cisco VPN. That's all it is. It's VPN something.
Yeah, well, but there are different clients for the Cisco VPN anyway.
Anyway, that's all it says on it is Cisco VPN, and all you do is type in your username and password for the the network, and you're in, and that's it.
Because I use the AnyConnect client, which is actually a lot better.
Whatever. They gave me the only Mac client they had because my work machine is a
Mac.
Yeah, anyway. So if it doesn't work, then I might be... anyway. What else? So, yes, there's something that's... If you pay attention to frontrowcrew.com, which you should go to, and, I know a lot of people just subscribe to us in iTunes and never go to our website.
We got a forum.
Well, there's the forum, yes, but, people go there. People tend to go directly to the forum, though, and they don't go to frontrowcrew.com, our website that has stuff on it. Lots of stuff, and it's going to have a lot more stuff soon.
We always have that
soon.
Thing of the day. You realize those are links to things on the internet. You can go click on them.
Yeah. But anyway, our website has lots of stuff, and it actually now has a news column. And in that news column, in the bottom left of the homepage, you can also look at all the old newses by clicking on the word news. We're putting stuff there, like, convention schedules and all that sort of stuff. So I put a news there recently, but it hasn't been getting a lot of attention because I neglected to mention it on the show. So I finally remembered to mention it on the show. Basically... on a side of our forum, we've got this one advertisement there from Project Wonderful, right? And since I've had it there, it's gotten us like $25. It's not exactly the most lucrative advertisement in the world. You know that Geeknights itself will never have advertisements, and I don't think FrontRowCrew.com will have advertisements, though other things may have advertising. We're only promising about those two things. So if we make another show, like, I didn't say Scott's Box might have advertising one day.
Geeknights.
Yeah, Geek Kniggets might have advertising, but not Geeknights. Anyway, but I figured, hey, this Project Wonderful, I want to see how ad buying works. I've got this $25. I can just buy ads with those $25, And if I buy them from places that are about equivalent to us in terms of, monies, I can get a whole lot of ads. The thing is, I need ads, right? They're all images. I need someone to Photoshop up some images that are basically ads.
The moral of what Scott is just rambling about is design us an ad and you will be able to win a prize that is actually pretty cool.
Yes, we have a real prize. If you go to the forum there's a thread, Geek Nights ad contest, and it tells you the sizes of the ads that we need, and there's also source materials in terms of the vector graphics of all our logos that you can use to help you make your ads. And basically, whoever you make an ad, email it to us, put it in the forum thread, do whatever. And whichever one we select is the winner, and if they all suck, there won't be a winner, but hopefully there'll be some good ones.
They win the prize?
You'll win the prize. And the prize is, basically, I have this, Akira manga is 6 volumes. I have the Dark Horse 6 volumes, but Kodansha is coming out with the same thing again. So I'm going to buy the Kodansha edition, and then whichever, the Dark Horse is already an awesome edition, and I can't imagine the Kodansha will be worse. So, I'll keep one, and the other set will be the prize. You'll win all 6 volumes of Akira. That's like $180 worth of comics right there. The whole thing, all 6 volumes, I'll mail them to whoever the winner is. That's a crazy prize just for making some, JPEGs or whatever. So if you have Photoshop or artistic skills of any kind, this is the contest for you. You can win 6 volumes of like one of the best mangas ever. So there it is. Enter our contest.
All right.
We need ads that we can buy. And hopefully the ads, when we buy, you'll get to see them around the internet on other people's websites. And hopefully it will make more Geek Nights listeners from people who click on the ads. Of course, someone who clicks on ads, I don't know if that's a good listener. I just want to see how this stuff works, really. That's my curiosity.
All right. So do you have any non-meta to talk about?
Yes, okay. Non-metas. You want to do news?
Well, it's Thursday. We don't have to do anything.
Anyway, so yeah, I want to talk about this thing that Rim just told me about 10 minutes ago.
Did you look up the details?
I looked up all the details I could find in the New York Times. Basically, JetBlue, my favorite airline, I fly in JetBlue, pretty much unless I don't have a choice and I have to fly someone else because they're just awesome. They had a plan, and basically the promotion was all you can jet. For $599, they would sell you a ticket that would allow you to travel on unlimited domestic United States flights on JetBlue Airways between September 8th and October 8th, 2009. So and basically, the plan was going to end on Friday. It sold out yesterday, Wednesday, 2 days in advance because there was overwhelming demand. And that $600 covers all the domestic taxes and fees. That's it. $599.
The thing is, it's cool because Greyhound had something like that forever. I believe they still do, where you could just basically wander around America with this kind of golden Greyhound ticket.
I think that they should always just have on permanent, offer an annual unlimited flight ticket, like make it $6,000 or something like that.
I have a feeling the only reason this works is because it was specifically a promotion.
Yeah. But I mean, that would be.
Notice it wasn't November through December, the holidays.
I know, right? Yeah. But I really wonder how it works. Like, does this mean that you can just go to JetBlue.com and pick any flight and it says $0 when you log in?
Maybe on every JetBlue flight, they just left one seat free.
They just left one. But what if two people with these unlimited passes? They didn't say how many unlimited passes they sold. All they said is they sold out on Wednesday.
Maybe only one. Maybe it's a lie. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be that there was. They said it was overwhelming demand, though. So
they said they had one, and two people tried to buy them.
The thing is, if I was either A, on vacation, right? I had a month of vacation, or B, I was a business traveler, I would scoop these up so ludicrously fast. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if these were picked up by companies for the employees. Right?
But it's only for 1 month. What are the odds that you have that much business traveling in places JetBlue goes to in that month?
But think about this kind of situation, right? Let's say you've got a bunch of employees, right? And they're all going to go on, maybe you got 5 different guys, they're all executives. And they're all going to be flying to different places.
Well, Scott, JetBlue doesn't go to that many places. And
JetBlue goes to a lot of places.
Yeah, but not that many
Anywhere
places.
in the United States places. They go pretty much every
they don't go to a lot of places in the Midwest I wouldn't need to go to.
Like where?
Well, Detroit.
I'm pretty sure they go close enough to Detroit.
Nah, they didn't go anywhere near Detroit when I wanted to fly there.
Well, that was when. Go look at their website now. They add places all the freaking time.
Nah, when I had to go down to Columbia and near D.C. and
go to JetBlue.com and tell me what you see.
Right now, you want me to waste all that time? All right.
You can go. Well, I'm still, they go to Florida. They go to California.
Scott, there's not that much. Business traveling is way down. And two, business travelers like to, first class. There's no first class on JetBlue.
That's why JetBlue is so awesome, because there is no classes. It's just one class, the whole plane. You can pay a little bit more if you want to sit in the the emergency exit rows, because then you have more legroom. And every seat has a little TV in it that's totally free and has a whole bunch of shit to watch. And, they don't bother giving you, it's like they realize who wants shitty airline food. They just give you a nice little snack, animal crackers, little, biscotti, something.
All right, Scott, they still don't go to Detroit.
Where do they go?
Where do they go?
Close to Detroit?
Nothing.
There's got to be something.
I guess Chicago, but that's still quite a drive from Detroit.
Detroit's a shithole now anyway. They don't want to go there. Who wants to go to Detroit? Where else do they not go besides Detroit?
Everywhere that isn't on this fairly short list.
The list is pretty long. What major place do they not go?
Detroit?
Besides Detroit. Everywhere but Detroit is a lot of places. There's 50 freaking states. Most of them have major cities in them. So far, your complaint is that JetBlue doesn't go to a lot of places because they don't go to one dying city in the Midwest.
So I have to sit here and parse out this whole list for you and point out the places they don't go.
I thought it was a short list, but now it's a big list that is difficult to parse.
It's a fairly short list. It's 4 times 15, and that's it.
That's a lot of places. The United States is only 50 states.
It appears that they don't go anywhere in Ohio.
Who wants to go to Ohio?
I have reasons to go to Ohio, and I can't.
Oh, I don't know why you're going to Ohio. They go to the good places that people want to go. That's what JetBlue's all about, is they're just like me. They say, oh, that's a shitty place. Who wants to go there? They only go to the good places. That's why they don't give you the shitty airline food. So, it's just the good parts without the bad parts.
All right. Oh, and when I had to fly to Washington, while they do fly there, I couldn't use JetBlue because they had no flights that went at any reasonable time for when my business traveling was.
Oh, whatever.
Because they don't have that many flights.
They got enough flights.
Well, they don't go two places I've wanted to go, and they didn't have
what's
schedules.
The second place Ohio you wanted to go?
Yeah, I got relatives there.
Who wants to go to Ohio?
I do.
That's all you.
Okay.
It's a shithole. No one wants to go there, just like Detroit. All your relatives live in shitholes is what you're saying. Anyway, let's continue. You got anything over there?
All right. You're such a JetBlue fanboy. It's kind of weird. Plus, I'll admit, having flown Continental, while it's more expensive, the planes are much nicer and much more comfortable. Good God.
Not even close.
Well, they are.
I've been on a bunch of different airlines, and JetBlue is more comfortable times, a whole bunch.
Well, I disagree. Have you flown on one of the newer 757s?
Who wants to be on a friggin' 757? To be on an Airbus, European quality, not some shitty
You mean
US...
some busted old Airbus?
No, it's not busted old. Those are all like super new.
Well, like an A320? That's kind of an old plane.
No, but the A320 is a model that has been around for a while, but all of JetBlue's A320s were manufactured very recently.
Not that recently. In fact, I'll point out, Scott, Continental...
JetBlue isn't that old. They're less than 10 years old.
I'll point out, Continental by far has the youngest fleet.
Yeah,
Where
do you get this information from?
You can go look it up.
So you can go look it up, but where did you look it up that you saw this?
Continental.
Oh, so you believe what they say about themselves?
Well, the thing is, Scott, you can't say something like that in your advertising as a fact and get away with it if you're wrong. And considering that most of the flights I was looking at are all like 757s, which are a pretty new plane, I'm willing to believe them. Yeah.
I have no interest in these shitty other airlines.
Okay, you're like
with their separate classes.
I don't think the listeners understand how much of a fanboy Scott is about JetBlue.
And they got all these other airlines. They got stupid connections. JetBlue, direct flight.
Other airlines have direct flights.
Yeah, JetBlue's only direct flights.
No, JetBlue has connections. In fact,
you can connect if you want to.
It was a lot cheaper to fly to Seattle through JetBlue if we took those connections.
Yeah, that's because you're actually buying 2 cheap tickets instead of the one nice ticket.
That's all a connection is.
Yeah, no, who wants to do
What do you mean, yeah? Didn't you just say JetBlue doesn't have connections?
Well, they don't, a connection is always possible. But I mean,
in fact, they offer them. In fact, that was the #1 recommendation when I put in our plan to go to Seattle. They were like,
you can go take the connection if you want to. I'm going.
But Scott, your assertion that JetBlue does not have connections was patently false.
Other airlines, though, it'll be like, you want to get from here to here, you got to do a connection.
No, in fact,
there's plenty.
In fact, when I went to Continental to check, the first thing they offered me was a direct flight, and the only reason I didn't fly Continental was that the flight that was the cheapest was at 2 hours later than the JetBlue flight, which was a little bit worse because we're going to go there Thursday night.
Anyway,
I would rather have flown Continental.
JetBlue is the win. You can go on your shitty Continental flights, which first of all, right? Second, the Continental flights. Talking about JetBlue doesn't go anywhere. Continental goes from fucking Newark, right? JetBlue at least goes to JFK.
But Scott, no, if I fly,
White Plains.
You realize if I fly Continental, I connect out of Stewart, which is right next to our house. So I go
to go to shitty Stewart Airport.
Stewart
JFK
Airport's
is
great.
far more convenient. Stewart, I had to drive to and park there.
Scott, there's a free shuttle from the train station.
Oh, so I got to go to the train station. I can park there. You can take the shuttle.
Well, I can walk to the train station.
You're going to walk all the way to the train station from here?
Yeah, it's like right there. I did that the last time I flew out of Stewart.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass. Or I could take a train right up to JFK. No problem.
Plus, Scott, flying from Stewart to the city, connecting to Newark or LaGuardia or whatever, doesn't matter even which airline. I'm pretty much always going to, from now on, after this PAX thing, fly out of Stewart, even if I just connect at JFK, because I don't have to go through any security, really. There's like this tiny line at Stewart. It's a nice, tiny little airport. And when I fly in, I'm already behind security.
No, that's all you. Anyway, enough of the show's now. We're taking too much time on this airport
I don't know. I was going to go right past it, but Scott just had to get all fanboy about JetBlue.
That's not my fault. You don't know how to fly.
Yeah, so how am I going to get to Ohio?
In your car. Or don't go, because it's not a place for people to it's not habitable.
Yeah, great. Anyway, so considering what we're going to be talking about for the rest of this show, if Scott can let go of the JetBlue thing.
You're the one who's dragging
I thought
it
this
out.
was interesting. The life expectancy in the U.S. has reached an all-time high of 77.9 years.
That's pretty old.
Except that it puts us at about 50th in nations.
So who's number one?
I didn't even look at the list. We're pretty far down. Albania beats us significantly. I think Japan is number one, to be honest.
That makes
because
sense.
the life expectancy there is like 83.
Yeah, Jeff, there's always that stereotypical really old Japanese version.
But here's the thing. This is what's interesting and incredibly sad, but at the same time, anyone who didn't see this coming has been living under a rock. So most likely, it's not that we're rising, this is the all-time high. It's the all-time high because we've peaked and it's dropping from this point forward. And sadly enough, it's actually dropping pretty rapidly in certain areas of America. And unlike most other industrialized nations, the gap between people who live very long and people who don't live so long is widening at a somewhat horrifying pace.
Just like the gap between people with a lot of money and people with not so much money?
Almost entirely in geography. Apparently, the life expectancy is dropping or stagnating in rural areas and rising in urban areas.
Well, I think it's rising in places where people have money and going down in places where people don't have money.
Pretty much what it comes down to, every cause of death that is causing the life expectancy to drop in the U.S. boils down to smoking, obesity. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Everything that is causing life expectancy to drop in the U.S. is related to obesity, and it's all these diseases caused by obesity. It's type 2 diabetes, it's high blood pressure.
I heard a lot of stuff recently about like hospital infections, like causing a whole bunch of deaths. Is that on the list there?
Not even close. It's pretty much obesity and smoking.
Well, I guess, yeah. I guess the things that I heard were about the hospital infections were cause of death. But I guess, in terms, cause of death is different than overall decrease in life expectancy.
Yep. And pretty much, basically, life expectancy in the U.S. is dropping among poor people, primarily in rural areas, primarily in the South, along the Mississippi, and in the Southern Midwest, and in Appalachia. And it's rising everywhere else. And the scary thing is, if you look at the maps that kind of break down where it's rising and where it's falling, and you look at the last from the 60s to the 80s and from the 80s to now, it was going up almost everywhere until the late 80s. And then it started dropping in all the places where there are fat people.
What happened around then that made that happen?
People started getting fat.
Why did they get fat then?
I don't know.
What was it that, I
mean, maybe corn subsidies.
Why didn't people get fat in the 70s?
But the scary, it's basically the fact that the life expectancy is dropping primarily because of eminently treatable and preventable things like obesity, being fat, and smoking.
Yep.
And then otherwise, our healthcare is great. So if you live in cities and you're not fat, your life expectancy is probably in the top of the world in America, but the average is brought down so much by what's going on.
How do the cities of America compare to the world?
If you basically break down the people who do well in America versus the people who do poorly, like the top and the bottom, the top of America is in like the top 5 or 6. And the bottom of America is not too far off from the third world.
How does the top? No. What if you did the same thing for Japan? Are there places in Japan where it's high? And then
the disparity between high and low is greater in America than it is in almost anywhere else, as far as I can tell from these studies.
Well, America is bigger than a lot of other places. Pretty much like the U.S.
Well, Russia,
Canada, and China are pretty much the only place. Australia, kind of, are the only places that are really big enough to have a geographical disparity.
But it's interesting that apparently
Brazil, Argentina,
up until the 80s, it looks like people who had the longest life expectancies tended to be the people in rural areas. And that is rapidly changing, again, primarily due to obesity and smoking.
Well, because cities used to be dangerous places, Yeah,
well, pollution is down in cities, crime is down, and all that sort of stuff. The studies are I suggest that you read the study and check out all these graphs and all this data.
You keep hitting your bed all the time?
Well, my bed's there, and whenever I talk, I need to gesticulate.
You need to hit something, though? You could just gesticulate in the air, like an Italian person. Anyway.
I like to pound on tables.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things when I get that
Too
house
much pounding
is to have
a pounding table.
Well, for burning wheels specifically, a table that is designed to, if you pound on it, it will not shake, but it will resonate.
You're gonna go to the carpenter and get this table made.
I should make it hollow so that you hear this booming pound every time someone pounds on it.
It might break.
Maybe inside the hollowness, I will have a microphone hooked up to an amplifier.
Anyway, you gotta have a hole cut in the bottom and then put some strings across it so your table will be a guitar.
Guitar table.
Guitar table. Oh, maybe I should make that. That'd be on the internet so fast. All I gotta do is make a hollow table, cut a hole in it, and put some strings across it, and then I got a guitar table.
So anyway, things of the day.
Actually,
before we get to
one thing I want to say.
Yes.
A better idea than a guitar table, a harp table.
How about just a harp?
No, it's turn the harp on the side and then put a piece of glass over it.
But then how is that going to help?
You play it from the bottom.
All right, but
or you take the piece of glass off when you want to play, and then you put the piece of glass on when you want an awesome table.
Harps aren't enclosed by default.
I know. You only put the glass there when you want to use the harp as a table, and then you take the glass off to play it. Anyway,
as I was about to say, before we get too sidetracked with unrelated BS, it's time for things of the day. Now, a long time ago, Scott and I started using the word Randy, as in James Randi, whenever we were referring to bullshit, like chiropractic or homeopathy or any of that BS. We call it Randy bullshit. Partly in honor of the fact that James Randi has done more.
The problem is that, British people use the word Randy in a completely different way.
That is true. But anyway, we use it partly in honor of James Randi's noble fight against all this BS, and we needed a word to encapsulate that, and it served very well, and I've caught a lot of listeners and people who we know using it. It's entered kind of the front row crew lexicon. And just recently, not that long ago, I started using another term after a certain YouTube video that is kind of my thing of the day, where that one member of Congress basically punked that girl who called Obama a Nazi. And it reminded me, and it reminded Scott of way back when Bill Clinton was giving a talk, and someone was like, blah, 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 9/11 was a conspiracy. And Bill Clinton basically was like, shut the fuck up.
That was a good one.
And then I thought all the way back to when Buzz Aldrin was confronted with a guy who accused him of being a coward for lying about the fact that he went to the moon. And Buzz Aldrin looks at him and punches him in the face.
Oh.
And while I'm generally, not, I never agree with using violence to react to words. I basically would not have, no court would have convicted Buzz Aldrin for punching this guy.
No court did. He's a free man.
And I realized that is what I want out of politics. I want more people to be like Barney or to be like Bill Clinton. When someone is stupid, don't be political. Don't, hem and haw and be like, oh, well, you believe that, but I believe this and blah, 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 blah. I want politicians to just pull a Buzz Aldrin and either physically or verbally punch them in the face. And the verb I'm going to use for this henceforth is Buzz Aldrining.
See, I think the problem here is that, unlike Randy, you are trying to do this intentionally,
yes,
as opposed to by accident, which means the chances of success of this catching on are low, and also Buzz Aldrining is not as catchy as buzzing or Aldrining.
While not catching.
On their own, so it's going to be...
I've already had this discussion, and I realized that having the full term Buzz Aldrining has, I think, the diction of it and the rhythm of it.
It means it's not going to happen.
No, and the fact that it's so long adds this sort of inherent comedic timing. And I think that is what's going to make it succeed more so than anything else.
I think it's going to fail.
I think it's going to succeed. In fact, I used it in another thread, and one other person has already used it. I think it is going to catch on.
I don't think it's going to catch on.
I've defined Buzz Aldrining as, and I quote, 2, upon reaching the conclusion that the person with whom you are debating is incapable of rational discourse, eschew further discussion in favor of either public ridicule or hilarious violence.
That's good. I like that. That's a good. Your definition's perfect.
I think the definition and everything together, it's gonna happen. At least it will be as widespread.
I'm not
as
joining
Randy.
the club until it spreads on its own because I don't want to skew the.
That's fine, but I'm going to use it as much as possible. The thing is, too.
But the thing is, I have a feeling, knowing you're going to artificially overuse it.
I'm lucky though. It can't be overused because it's so rare. No one Buzz Aldrins anyone anymore except Buzz Aldrin.
That's true.
I mean, what? I couldn't find that many videos.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you could Blagojevich instead, but...
So your thing of the day is videos of people Buzz Aldrining people?
My thing of the day is the forum post where I coined the Buzz Aldrin phrase, and it is the video of Barney Frank, Bill Clinton...
Self-aggrandizing thing of the day.
And Buzz Aldrin. Buzz Aldrining.
All right, so my thing of the day, I know people who are geeks don't pay attention to the sports like we do, but you gotta
talking about Bolt?
Oh, yeah.
Good God.
How could you not?
Good
right?
God.
There is a man from Jamaica. He's really tall, taller than us.
He's fast.
His name is Usain Bolt. I don't know if he did any drugs or not.
No, Scott, I'll say this. Never in the history of man has there been a more clear-cut case of nominative determinism than Mr. Bolt.
Yeah, I mean, Usain Bolt, there is no evidence that he is, partaken in any, performance-enhancing substances or anything of the sort, although it's not, impossible. Whether he has or he hasn't, the fact of the matter is Usain Bolt is the fastest human being to have ever existed in the history of human beings, as long as we have been measuring the speed of human beings.
Not just by a little bit. It's not like he's breaking these records by like 100th of a second. You watch the video, he's just gone.
Look at these videos. This is actually what's going on right now is the World Championship in athletics, right? It's in Berlin. And he broke the world record for the 100-meter dash. He ran it in 9.58 seconds. So think about 100 meters. Now think about, get a stopwatch and do 9 point. You could watch the videos. There's high-res videos on YouTube. I'm going to link to them. He did the 200 meters. I think it was today or maybe yesterday. 1919, 200 meters, right? So that's 9.58 times 2 is, okay. You can see that he's pretty much running the same speed on both of these. He's up against, basically, you look at them line up for these races, right? Those are the fastest human beings that currently live, all of them, just lined up there. And he's like multiple strides ahead of everyone else. It's insane. And like Tyson Gay from the United States, he's out there. If Usain Bolt wasn't out there, Tyson Gay would be like breaking the world record and stuff. It's like he looks slow next to Bolt, but if you compare like Tyson Gay to the all of history, he's like, crazy fast, like winning awesome fast. But Usain Bolt is out there. It looks like he's cheating, but he's not. He's just the fastest person to ever be. And you have to watch this just because, holy shit. And I thought there was this one article that was really interesting that showed a graph of the world record in the 100-meter dash over time, by year. And it showed he's like, okay, if we do a graph, and then what equation matches, this data plot, right? Usain Bolt was a crazy outlier. Like if we continue, there should be first of all, you assume that there's some limit to human speed, that if you follow that graph, the limit is somewhere around 9.2, right? For the 100 meters. And if you look at Usain Bolt just did a 9.58 and you look at the graph, according to the graph, nobody should be doing a 9.58 for another 10 or 20 years.
Well, if not ever. Yeah, because of the fact that there are limits to what a human body can do without no longer being human.
Right, but we're assuming that the limits, we're assuming that the limit is on this graph as opposed to, some other, right? Well, it's just mathematically speaking.
We were talking about this at work.
No one's going to be breaking these records for decades.
The only person at work who seemed to know about this at all was the French guy who was like, hey, Bolt. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, yeah, Bolt, but no one else knew.
Oh.
But the thing is, I pointed out to my coworkers, and they all paused and thought, oh, yeah, crap. And then they were all kind of disappointed and disenchanted with the whole affair. I basically pointed out
that... Did they watch the video?
No, disappointed and disenchanted in that these sorts of pure athletic competitions, like the fastest runner, the fastest swimmer, the fastest biker, all those things.
The farthest thrower.
It's gotten to the point to where the technique will not change. The technique is basically
Technique is run as fast as you possibly can.
But there is technique.
Yeah.
And every human gets effectively, if you were a competitor at all, you get the same training, or effectively the same training. How hard you try is not going to matter because you're not trying any less hard than everyone else.
So it's the same thing with Lance Armstrong, giant lungs.
That's it. So the 100-meter dash and the 200-meter dash and all these things are really only now tests of genetics.
Yeah.
It is just a competition of who has the best genetics.
Or, enhancement by other means. Perhaps.
Yeah, training.
Chemical. Yes, training and chemicals.
But even if we outlaw chemicals, it's purely genetics, assuming that training is equal for all.
Yep.
So it's a competition of who can find the people who have the genetics to beat the record and convince them to be the person to beat the record and have that single-minded focus for their whole lives and actually train them fully and competently to do it.
Well, look at, Michael Phelps. Same thing.
But isn't it kind of weird that we're basically just testing our genes? We're one step toward Gattaca.
Well, I mean, I think what they first of all, on Wikipedia, there's a graph that shows Usain Bolt's 100-meter times over the years, and it shows how he got faster and faster, and now he's like he could be faster next year. Like that'd be insane. It's crazy. But pretty much the only person who's going to break any of his records in the foreseeable future is him, and that's that. So yeah. All right. Anyway,
it's got to be sucked to be the really fast guy who is going to be running like next year, and you're just done.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Tyson Gay. Like if Usain Bolt wasn't there, all of the news would be like Tyson Gay, American, breaks world record in 100-meter dash. But nope, it's not him. Someone else came faster at the same time. Like, imagine if you were as good as hockey as Wayne Gretzky, right? And then someone better than Wayne Gretzky happens to be, like, joining the NHL at the same time as you. Well, now you're not going to be all awesome and famous because this other guy is taking all the glory. But if he wasn't there, you'd be the next Wayne Gretzky. But,
Yeah, well, hockey is also a thing of genetics. I mean, if you weren't born north of the Messier line, or at least in Russia or Scandinavia.
You got nothing. Anyway, all right, so today's show.
Yep, well, I don't know how long we'll talk about this.
No.
We're not going to get into specifics.
Well, I mean, this is the kind of thing you could talk for 100 years and never be done talking.
It's also the kind of thing where if we wanted to talk about the specifics, we would gather all the evidence we need and that sort of thing.
It would take forever.
Basically, also, as an ulterior motive, Scott suggested the show for once, and as you all know, Scott does not like to talk about anything political. So we're not
going to talk about anything political.
Whenever he has an inclination to have a topic on a Thursday that is even close to the realm of possibly being in any way maybe tangentially related to something that could be considered politics, I am going to indulge him. We're talking about healthcare because the debate, the national dialogue about healthcare in America has basically reverted.
It's retarded.
It is reverted to people wargling about Nazis, but at the same time, it's weird. The right is accusing the left of being Nazi socialists, which doesn't quite work in the first place.
Fascism and socialism are polar opposites?
Even though Nazis were called National Socialists, but that wasn't what they
weren't actually socialists. They were fascist, which is complete.
But how can you accuse someone of being a socialist and a Nazi?
Because you have no idea what you're talking about?
Yeah.
We can get past that part. It's not the important part.
It's just wargling.
Everyone who is discussing the issue of healthcare in the media and in the government and among the populace, pretty much 99% of people who are opening their mouths are complete retards. Maybe not complete retards as a whole, but complete retards on this subject, and they have no clue what they're talking about. Or even if they're intelligent, they're discussing the wrong thing, and just everyone is wrong. Even though, you might be sitting at home thinking, these nice people are right and these people are wrong. Or, Obama's plan is good, Obama's plan is bad. Who gives a shit? You're all wrong. Everyone is stupid.
I would argue that it's not necessarily a matter of everyone being wrong objectively.
Well, no.
The problem is that because the national dialogue about it on all levels, except possibly in committee in Congress is like the only place where theoretically
you can go watch C-SPAN if you want.
But the floor is not where you see stuff.
Hey, there's a thread on the forums of people who have trouble going to sleep. C-SPAN.
The thing is, you might get unlucky and it'll be prank call night.
Oh, shit.
C-SPAN gets prank called more than like anything.
C-SPAN prank calls are awesome. Go on YouTube, find some.
What was that? My favorite one ever is the guy just calls up and he's like,
something, fuck.
No, but the guy was like, am I on the air? And the guy's like, yes. And he goes, fuck. And that's it. But anyway, it's that the national dialogue is, we had that whole show about high-level discourse and how the wider a discussion is, the lower the level of discourse becomes simply by the nature of the transmission of memes.
That's the exact phenomenon we're seeing here. 100% exactly same thing.
The national dialogue is at such a low and broad level that there cannot be debate. Like, it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of the arguments are at such a simplistic level that you cannot be right by nature of the fact that you cannot even address the scope of the issue.
So let us address the scope of the issue. Now that we have an intelligent, radio show here. Now we can do it, right? Because we're so smart.
Yes. Well, here's why we can do it. One, we're just going to give our opinion. Yeah. That's it. Pendulette. What about us? We're just crazy.
I'm just some crazy guy.
Yeah, don't listen to me. Self-deprecation is pretty much the ticket.
See, saying crazy shit. Well, I'm just some crazy guy. I'm not an expert. And you know what? I am not an expert on healthcare.
Nope.
Not at all. But I do know some fundamental, basic things that many people ignore.
It's pretty simple when you really break it down. One, currently in the world, there are finite resources.
Yes.
No matter what we do, there is a limited...
Some things are effectively infinite. For example, music.
Or atoms.
Atoms.
If you just want atoms, you don't care what kind, I got a whole bunch. But if you want specific kinds, it gets a little more dicey.
I want some of them gold atoms.
I can't get you that much strontium in a hurry.
Platinum atoms, yeah. So the issue here is this, right? We have these finite resources that are healthcare resources. Doctors, hospital beds, room in hospitals, flu shots, MRI machine.
And not even that. Just to zoom out for a second, it's a finite resources of just resources in general. And of all the resources and all the things we can use them on, we have to take a portion of that and decide what portion and dedicate it to healthcare before we even talk about the healthcare part.
I mean, that's right. It's like, okay, so we're digging up, magnets, let's say, right? We need, let's say we're digging up some uraniums, right? We could use these uraniums for radiation therapy for cancer patients, or we could use it for a nuclear power plant.
Or bombs. Watch dials.
Should we, where do we put it, right? Which one is the best for our society?
Now think about this. They will both save lives. Nuclear power, less pollution, it gets us off of, all the trouble we're having now with oil and coal and that sort of thing. Don't get me started on nuclear waste. It's not nearly as big a deal as it ever makes it out to be, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yep.
It'll save lives in the long run. MRIs save lives, obviously.
Yep.
So which avenue of saving lives are we going to take?
Not just which avenue, right? But it's like, okay, I have X tons of uranium. How many uraniums do I allocate to this one, and how many do I allocate to that one? It's totally a German board game situation, right? How many guys do I put in Galicia, and how many do I put in the Castillo?
Never put guys in Galicia. It's only worth like 4 points.
I know, right? But you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
Besides, I put them all in the Castile, and I always win.
Yeah.
It's just too powerful.
So that's, right, see, these are the people are addressing this whole problem of, how do we ensure what we've already got? Nobody's asking the question of, well, what is this that we've already got? What do we do? They're already have like accepted all these fundamentals, as if there's somehow laws of the universe, as if there's somehow.
Here's the analogy. That what the American people are doing is arguing about how to spend the money they won on the lottery that happens next week.
Yep.
That is what we are doing. We're arguing about all these specifics and all these details. And honestly,
completely ignoring all the fundamentals because we're just accepting them and not even thinking that they could be changed.
And it's so simple. The national dialogue cannot be complex. It is impossible to have a high-level dialogue across that many people, even if everyone is intelligent. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It's too complex of an issue for any one person to grasp, let alone everyone.
Yep. Especially even if everyone's intelligent. Not everyone's an expert on this particular issue. There are too many things to know. We're computer people. We don't know enough about this to have a super intelligent discussion.
But two, the national it doesn't mean we can't have a national dialogue. But if we have a national dialogue, it can't be about the specifics or the made-up stuff like the death panels and all the wargling. The high-level dialogue is very simple. What do we want, universal health care or not? Should we have it? Is it a right? All these basic questions. What is the core goal? And until we answer that question, everything else we do is just bullshit.
Yep. All these specific things like, we're going to tax here, or are we going to decide, this here? Those are specific things. You don't decide that until you figured out, the building block first, right? It's like, what is our actual goal? Is it to have the most people living the most years possible, or is it to have the most people living the most comfortable years? It's like, are we gonna weight the years based on quality of life? Are we gonna, is a year for Bill Gates to live as, the same as a year for some homeless bum to live? What are we going to value? What are we trying to maximize and minimize here?
And of course,
that is step one. You've got to decide, what is your goal? And
the problem is already, look how high level this is. It's such we have priorities as a society, but we don't write them down. We don't decide specifically, these are the priorities of our society. This is what we want to accomplish as a people to better ourselves. Is healthcare more or less important than the military? Is it more or less important than certain economic factors, than certain ideologies like capitalism or socialism? And we haven't even addressed that sort of thing.
Yeah. The other thing, right? Check this out, right? Let's say, I just gave you all these different possible goals, right? Let's say our goal is to have the most people live the longest. Just saying, right? Let's pretend. The best way to get the most people to live the longest might not be to spend money on medicine and hospitals. You're actually probably going to get a lot more people living on average a lot longer if you spend your money on things like health education, exercising, better food.
I mean, look at what I just talked about in the news. The primary cause of the peak of life expectancy in America is obesity.
Yep.
Obesity is
there's a much greater correlation between shorter life and low income than there is a correlation between shorter life and no medicine. It's sort of like this idea that medicine is what makes longer life. Well, not really.
Well,
medicine is medicine's definitely necessary.
We beat
and
all
important.
the easy stuff. I mean, not that many people die of typhus in America anymore.
I'm not saying medicine shouldn't be or is not important. Not even close.
We got to this point.
What I'm just saying is that
we got to this point, and now it's almost a decline because we're just managing our resources really inefficiently because we haven't decided what's important to us as a people. And that is where there is reasonable debate. We can debate as a society whether or not universal health care is a right. I believe it is.
Oh. I mean,
I think it's a very high priority.
It is a very high priority, but I think the question is, so let's say we go and we decide, okay, this is how much we're going to give to healthcare and this is how much we're going to give to.
Well, here, let's give a very simple goal because we have to really define it. Something along the lines of, it is the right of every, citizen or person living in the United States. See, again, conflated with all these other issues.
Yep.
But of people here in some capacity, however we define that, to have available to them, no matter what, universally, some minimal level of health care.
Some minimal level. So now we get into this further debate, right? We've already figured out, so there's look at how many levels there are. There's how many resources do we give to healthcare versus other things, right? Then there's, within the healthcare, right? Okay, these are all the healthcare resources we have. How many do we give out per person, right? You can't, even if we have universal health care for everyone, that doesn't mean that you can just get whatever health care you need whenever you want, right? I mean, you can't, there aren't enough, organs for everyone who needs an organ transplant. There aren't enough flu shots for everyone who needs a flu shot. There aren't enough doctors to spend enough time with everyone who needs to spend time with a doctor. I mean, some things there's enough of. There's enough Tylenol for everybody. There's no worry about the Tylenol.
Now,
right?
think about this, though.
There's not enough hospital beds for everyone who needs to be in the hospital to stay in the hospital for as long as they need to.
With hospital beds, there's a good example. Should there be and can there be? And I don't think anyone is addressing either of those questions. I mean, we need to know.
Yep.
We need to know the answer of one. What would it cost, or what do we think it would cost to provide enough hospital beds for everyone in America who needs one? Mm-hmm. Before we know what that costs, we can't decide whether or not it's worth it to the society. Because it might be reasonable. It might seriously be reasonable to offer that, to have that, to pay for that.
Yep.
But at the same time, it might not. It might cost so much that we'll destroy some other part of our society just to pay for it.
Yeah, and let's say we decide, to get 100 hospital beds, right? And today, 150 people need them. How do we decide which 50 people don't get them?
Or do we assume?
Are we gonna say the old people who are closer to death don't get them? Are we gonna say the people, who? How do you make this decision?
Now,
right now, we make the decision, using a various means, triage, first come, first serve, sometimes money.
None of them are fair.
None of them are fair.
I mean, look at if you treat the poor person who comes in first for one thing versus the old person who wouldn't have that much longer to live anyway. And all this sort of really cold, scary, morally ambiguous logic. And in the national dialogue, what do we get? We get the far right saying things like, they're going to ration healthcare.
It's already rationed.
It's not even. That's like saying.
That's what rationing is. You have a limited resource. You dole it out. No matter how you dole it out, you're rationing.
If we didn't have to ration it, it wouldn't be a debate. We wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's already being rationed.
But
any distribution system, regardless of what that system is, for giving out a limited resource is rationing.
But making the argument that the current plan is going to be rationing health care and denying care to old people, all this stuff. We already do that. That's like arguing that we shouldn't have national health care because the sky is blue.
Yeah, there's no way to avoid doing that. The question is, how should we ration it?
Or is it possible to avoid it? On some level. I mean, maybe we can't give everyone in America the multi-billion-dollar, like, experimental crazy brain surgery. But I think we can give everyone in America fix a broken bone.
Oh, absolutely. I think we can.
But we don't even have that in America.
Well, if you go to the emergency room, they give you a cast.
The thing. And people, they think about these things in such simplistic terms in the media. Look at the emergency room. This is the example that bothers me. The fact that emergency rooms are so overcrowded, and at the same time, people complain about the fact that we should, I think we should allow minimal levels of health care even to illegal immigrants, to anyone within the borders of the United States.
No, because what happens then is people start coming to the U.S., from who knows where to just, leech, and that can, be a huge drain on our society.
The problem. Here's the thing. This is the whole sunk cost fallacy. Actually, it's a little more complex than that.
Yep.
Right now, those people go to the emergency room, and they get treated anyway.
Yep.
But now they're in the way of legitimate emergencies. Some poor person, maybe an illegal immigrant, maybe not, it doesn't matter, who doesn't have health care, if they need treatment, they have to go to an emergency room, wait 8 hours, have all that misery, do it, clog up the hospital system, clog up the emergency room. It would probably be cheaper to give these people minimal health care for free during the day at clinics than it is to have the current system where they go to the emergency room. It costs a lot more dollars to have people, doctors in the emergency room at 4 a.m. to deal with these people.
Yep. And so
if we're already paying for it anyway, we can pay less and help these people more.
Yep.
It seems like a trivial decision to make.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main problem here, right, is the problem of the pragmatism of the situation and the morality of the situation, right? I mean, you look and you say, okay, there are only 10 flu shots, right? We've got in this is 20 people. We have to decide which 10 people get them. So let's say you're sitting around a table, right? And you say, okay, 20 strangers walk into the hospital. How do we decide which 10 people get them, right? So everyone, some people might say, well, whoever can pay the most. And some people might say, well, whoever is, has the greatest chance of getting the flu, or maybe the pregnant women should get them first, right? We can come up with a system, right? And people will typically, you can get maybe an agreement on this system of deciding which 10 people out of the 20 are going to get the flu shots. The problem is, then you say, okay, it's not 20 strangers anymore. It's your family. Now it's like, oh shit, right? Everyone says, no, my family, has to get it first, right? No one's gonna, if you go to the hospital and it's your mom, right? And the system we decided was whoever's the, the most needy is gonna get it. And it's decided that your mom is, not the most needy and she's not gonna get the flu shot and someone else is gonna get it. You're going to be pissed. And that's why you had people they can't deal with that, so that's why everyone has to argue for a system where somehow everyone gets everything that they need, regardless of cost. And it's unworkable. So we have to do this cold and immoral thing to have our society
I don't think
function.
Necessarily immoral, but amoral, because it's not like there's an alternative. It would be immoral if there is an alternative where everyone gets treated.
You're correct.
And for some things, for example, honestly, if we won't treat a broken bone for someone in this country, that is immoral, because we as a society could pay for that.
There's enough casts to go around.
And gladly should be willing to pay for that.
There's not a shortage of casts. They're not expensive.
It is not immoral, I don't think, in my opinion, to not give everyone who needs it the multi-million-dollar brain surgery, because we can't. We cannot afford that. It's not a reasonable request.
Yeah, well, that's the other issue, right? Is that, people, they want healthcare to be better, right? Because they complain, the doctors are not nice, or, I had a horrible time in the hospital, it wasn't pleasant, I waited too long in the emergency room, and they want to pay less. How could something be better when you're paying less? If you want to be better, you have to pay more. But here's what they think.
The people who are against all this, they think along the lines of, well, we shouldn't be subsidizing those poor people.
Yeah, right. You can't have something better and pay less for it. Now, it is true that there are many areas in the healthcare system where there are great inefficiencies, where you're spending unnecessary money on things, where there's a lot of money, going that doesn't need to be going, and that is true. However, that doesn't mean, right, that doesn't, get rid of the fact that healthcare is in essence, ludicrously expensive. It is stupid expensive, right? You need machines that cost millions and millions of dollars. You need doctors. Guess what? Doctors are expensive. And you might say, oh, those doctors are getting overpaid. All right. You tell me the doctor's getting overpaid. Someone goes to school for 10 years of their life, pays all that tuition and all those student loans, right? And now they work. You know what kind of hour they have to work? First of all, when you're a new doctor, they work you like crazy, friggin' all day, all night, crazy hours. That's why doctors, they only see you for 5 minutes because they're driving around town to 3 different hospitals, right? That's why I think, people often joke about like, oh, them doctors playing golf all day. Yeah, they play golf 1 day a week because you know what? They work like crazy the whole rest of the week. Doctor ain't gonna go live that shitty life of a doctor, right? For, penny change, right? Doctors got to get paid big time monies, and his time is real valuable. And there's not enough doctors. And because, why there's not enough doctors? Because it's hard. Really, really hard. And, so doctors are expensive. Medical equipment is expensive. The drugs are expensive. And you know why the drugs are expensive? Because we had to research them. How much money do you think people have donated to cancer? How many different walks for breast cancer, or putting quarters in the piece of cardboard at the grocery store? There have been billions upon billions, maybe even tens of or hundreds of billions of dollars collected to do cancer curing research. We still have not cured cancer. That is the cost of medical research. It is insane. It is perhaps the most expensive thing
at the same time.
It has to be paid for somehow.
At the same time, remember, one interesting thing is that as time goes on, the cost of old treatments go down and down.
Of course.
And wouldn't it be an interesting system where the only thing that money gets you is that you have access to the new treatment earlier, but as treatments get cheaper, they're then entered into eventually, the effective public domain where the government pays for it. So,
yeah, but let's say, everyone just waited around for the old treatments, right? I mean,
Scott,
would there be enough paying for the new treatments to develop them?
Trivially, because that's how it is now. The people who have money pay. You're the rich man. Do you want to pay for the poor man's medicine?
Well, that was the greatest thing in Iron Monkey. Some kung fu movie, right, has the better attitude on healthcare, right? And there's a scene in Iron Monkey where the Iron Monkey is a doctor, right? He's a randy doctor with herbs and shit, but that's besides the point, right?
It's a movie, and in the movie where kung fu is magic, that is real medicine.
Okay, but these 2 people come in and they have the exact same ailment, right? And he writes the same prescription for both of them, right? One of them is
that he writes 2 prescriptions at the same time with both hands.
Yes, he's one of them is a homeless bum. Well, not a bum, but just a homeless poor guy. And the other guy is like a rich guy who runs a brothel, right? And, the poor man, he says, oh, your medicine is free. And the rich man, he's like, oh, yours is like 10 gold pieces. And the rich man's like, that's insane. He's getting the same thing as me. He doesn't have to pay. And the Iron Monkey's like, oh, maybe you can't afford it. He's like, ugh. And because he's so proud of being rich, he pays it, right? And that's... people think, oh, it's socialism. Well, kind of.
You know what, though? Honestly.
But, when it comes to something like medicine, you can't, nobody, I think, even if you want to talk about the morals of doling out these finite healthcare resources, nobody, I think, who is a moral human being is going to say that the people with the most money should get the healthcare resources and the people with the less money shouldn't get the healthcare resources or should get the second picks, right? That is immoral.
There's got to be some douchebag guy out there somewhere.
Yeah, some guy is like, first pay, first serve, right? Not first come, first serve or most need. Just whoever has the most money should get the stuff, and whoever doesn't have the money shouldn't get anything.
Of course, you got to be careful with the first come, first serve.
What good person says that? Nobody.
First come, first serve might leave you with a monster.
It might leave you with a monster, yes, the first come. I don't think it should be first come, first serve either.
Nah. The thing, but people aren't willing to even consider ideas like this because
what happens is the debate gets framed in such a way. Look, Obama's got this, proposed, it's a bill, right? So the debate is all about the specifics of this law. That it's framed so you can only argue things within this one particular context. People are incapable of discussing the broader issue. They haven't even thought about these concepts outside of, should we have insurance this way or insurance this way? What you're talking about insurance? You haven't even talked about, what insuring what? You don't even know what's going on, before that. You've already got all these other things. You just assume those are true as if somehow they're the laws of physics. You
well,
know,
it
like
doesn't help that the national dialogue is basically just lies at this point.
Well, it's just lies and idiocy from everybody. No one knows anything. They're all just retarded. Whatever. But yeah, hopefully, people who are listening to this, obviously we are not super healthcare experts. We didn't bring our datas and our statistics.
Well,
and all
one
that stuff.
thing I would like
but
to
you
point
will
out.
go and don't think about things in terms of, the meadly bits of insurance and how do you pay for this. And think about the fundamental problem and that there are finite healthcare resources. There are finite resources, period. What is a fair way to dole them out? Who gets them? Think about that. Well, and then you'll begin to form, on top of whatever you decide in that department,
honestly,
a real opinion.
Even beyond that, people are acting like this is such a pressing issue and this law, and we've got to push this law through. And it amazes me how fast everything's going. I'm
What's
honestly,
the rush?
People are dying, but I'm of the mind, really, that
not any different than a month ago or 2 months ago.
Reform on this scale requires part of it might be a product of the way our partisan politics work, but to me, this is like a 20-year project. Like, this is something that needs to be started now. We need to be working on it. But the proposal of what to do should take 4 or 5 years of experts debating.
Yeah, I mean, this is, something so complex, right? I mean, we haven't even debated the fundamental part, right? Once you figure that out, then you figure out, and then think about how long it would take to figure out all the specifics, all the systems, all of the, bureaucracy that has to happen and then while you're doing it, you're going to get the Duke Nukem Forever problem of as you're working on it, things get better and the whole thing changes, This is like a huge project.
Things
it's not
get
something
worse.
that you can sign into law.
As Bruce talks
weeks.
about a lot recently, think about the whole Lyndon Baines Johnson Great Society and how Vietnam kind of cocked that all up.
Yep. Okay.
That's it. We're done. It's Thursday.
Yeah. Just, I just want people to, when you think about the healthcare issue, just ignore all the shit in the news completely.
But I thought Obama was having death panels to kill my grandpappy.
Yeah. He's all,
because he's a Nazi.
Yeah. Think about the fundamental issue of you got 10 people in the hospital and you can only treat 5. How do you pick? Right? And figure that out first. And then tell us, what answer you come up with.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.